Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We'll do the Bet365 play of the day coming up a little bit later on in the show. But right now, it's Football at 4 with Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast at InsideTheBirds.com. The Eagles made a under-the-radar signing yesterday, late in the day. We'll talk about that. We'll also get into some off-season stuff here with Adam on a Friday edition of Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Happy Friday, Adam. What's going on, man?
Yeah, Mike, less than 2 weeks from the draft, 13 days away. Looking forward to discussing more of that as we go forward. And I do want to bring up something which I could not believe what I heard on Wednesday. I want you to confirm this for me. Did I hear you bring up on Football 4 with Jeffrey P. Mosher? Did I hear you bring up the name of Ron Salt? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, Ron Salt. Yeah, they brought him in to play guard, and he stunk.
That was, okay, so for folks who are not over 40 years old, Ron Salt was a big-time guard for the Colts, and the Eagles brought him in, paid him big-time money, and it just didn't work. And this is, if you remember, in the 80s and 90s, for several years, the Eagles had one of the worst offensive lines in football.
Yeah.
It's just funny how you fast forward a couple decades later, and now they have arguably the best. It's funny how that works out.
Well, and that was the genesis of the conversation was, the Eagles are boring on draft day, and they always go offensive line, and that is a complete turnaround from when I grew up. They had one of the worst offensive lines, and they, finally, to try to fix their offensive line, they go out and spend money on this guy, Ron Salt, and he gets popped for steroids, and then he had some sort of injury or something that basically he was a nothing burger for them.
So what's interesting, Mike, is, and you talk about boring, so you really go back to early in Howie Roseman's tenure as general manager. It was 2013, and the Eagles wind up drafting Lane Johnson. Well, I don't know if you're aware of this. You may be. If the Eagles had their way, because Chip Kelly wanted Deion Jordan, who he coached at Oregon. And what happened is the Dolphins traded up in front of the Eagles to get him, and the Eagles not only got Lane Johnson. What's comical is the Eagles were working on a trade to get Jordan later, a couple of years down the road, and Jordan had an off-the-field problem, so the Eagles wound up not trading for him. So it's kind of funny. Some of it, Mike, and obviously you have to give Howie credit for that 2013 draft and Lane Johnson, who it'll be a discussion someday whether he should get in the Hall of Fame. And obviously, if he doesn't get in, it's strictly because of the suspension. So, but that obviously is turned out to be a great draft pick. But there is some luck involved, Mike, sometimes where things just the board falls your way, or a team in front of you or behind you makes a mistake trading up for a player who winds up not being very good. But the bottom line is you want to take the luck out of it as much as you can. Yes, some of it is luck. You're making an evaluation on 20, 21, and 22-year-olds. Just imagine if when you and I were that age, people were trying to make an evaluation of us. It's very difficult. But fast-forwarding here, Mike, there's a reason why Howie's turned his career around as a general manager. That he's heading now for potentially his fifth excellent draft in a row. The past four were really good. And there's a reason why when Jeff Mosher and I, speaking of the Eagles and where they look at where they're ranked, Jeff and I did a new show. We had something we had not done before. We did actually power rankings before the draft for the first time. And, oh, boy, the social engagement. People have had the people have either loved what we had to say or they're pissed off at us. It's kind of funny, especially me. It's funny.
Well, we'll take a look at that in just a second. But I first want to get to the Eagles' kind of a sneaky little signing yesterday. A former second-round pick, was a real big college guy on a team that won the national championship with Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Terrace Marshall Jr. was with Carolina. I remember a couple of years ago when he was with Carolina, there were people that used to text in and saying, hey, you got to trade for him. They want to get rid of him. You need a wide receiver. He's a big guy, runs, under the radar, or just meh?
I'll be honest with you, Mike. I've known about this guy for a long time. Terrace Marshall, right? It's not Terrence, just for the folks there. It's Terrace Marshall. It took me a while to get it right. He had a very unique name. So Terrace Marshall is what we call a run after the catch receiver. He's not what you would call fast, but runs well for his size. But talk to a Panther source about him. If you could get him in open space, he could be productive. But slender build, didn't play with a lot of confidence. could not transfer what he would do in practice to the games, and they had enough of him. They changed front offices, and they didn't want him, and he was with the Raiders last season, barely played. So he's now with this third team. This is his fifth year, Mike. He came to the right spot because, let's face it, Mike, Jahan Dotson is on the final year of his rookie deal, right? He's their 3. They don't know who their 4 and 5 is going to be. Johnny Wilson's a blocking receiver. He doesn't really factor in other than the block. He isn't sure he can catch the ball yet. So he's got a chance to make the roster. And again, as you mentioned, he's a second-round pick. At one point, Howie thought of, but his career's kind of tumbled here. And Howie's had a lot of luck. He's done a really good job of bringing these guys in who have a lot to prove. And this is yet another guy who was a high-round draft pick that's coming in here and trying to get a role.
Yeah, second-round pick, LSU, played the slot at LSU, so maybe he can get into the slot here and give them a little something. And
he's really not, though. Just talking to he did in college play inside, but he played the Panthers. Someone in the Panthers told me they saw him more as an outside receiver. But, Mike, what they really need is someone on the outside who could run, who could back up. And by the way, he's bigger. He's bigger physically than Jahan Dotson in terms of height.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens. He's going to have a real shot here. I know it's a long shot, but they need help as backup outside receivers for sure.
All right, let's get into Adam Caplan's playoff power rankings for 2025. Teams that you are predicting to make the playoffs and where they kind of sit in your hierarchy.
All right, so Jeff and I did 2 shows. We kind of split it up. We did 14 through 8 on Monday, and then today's show we did 7 through 1, right? We start from the back. Then we had a little fun. We ranked the 5 worst teams on Monday. Now, I could tell you, though, Mike, the common denominator, if you just went through power rankings, if you and I spent 2 hours doing our own power rankings for 32 teams, majority of the teams that are bad, they have quarterback problems or offensive line problems that are connected to the quarterback. And it's just funny how that works. So let's go to my 14th team. Now, this one was not easy. I put the Bengals at 14. Now, look, they've taken care of their receivers. They've got the quarterback. They brought Mike Gesicki back, the former Penn State tight end, who actually did a nice job. Offensively, they're going to be terrific. Now, defensively, they're almost non-competitive last season. Under Lou Anarumo was fired. He's now with the Colts as their defense coordinator. Al Golden, you might remember, is Temple's head coach.
I do, yes.
Pretty crazy. He's going to be their defense coordinator. So my thinking here is this. They're going to somehow figure out to make Trey Hendrickson happy. They can't trade him. Sam Hubbard, their other starting defensive end, retired suddenly. So they got to help out everybody there, and they got to get a better defense. But they also have to, Mike, they've got to address their offensive line. They're going to score a ton of points. That won't be a problem. They got to help their defense. Now, you can make the argument they shouldn't be a playoff team. They're right on the fringe to me, but I got them at number 14.
Yeah, that's a team that has all the firepower. We're going to see what happens with Trey Hendrickson, though, on draft night. I mean, that could be shaking some things up over there. All right, these let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm trying to see. Well, the Bengals did not make the playoffs. Did they make the playoffs last year? I think they missed the playoffs. They look like, oh, nope, there's another team in there. So it looks like you got 2 new playoff teams in here. Who's after Cincinnati?
All right, so this team is like a perennial division winner in the NFC South, the Buccaneers. I'd like to put them higher, but again, we're doing this before the draft, so they have to dress cornerback where they were bad last season. They have to dress their pass rush. Jason Light, their GM, dressed really well, but they don't have enough blue-chip players. We know their offense will be great. Mike Evans is great. He'll be back. He'll be a Hall of Famer. They got Chris Godwin back. He's got to get healthy. He's had a number of injuries. They're really good at running back. Their offensive line's okay. I don't worry about their offense. Their defense has got to be better, but they're the kings of the NFC South. So I got them at number 13.
Yeah, they are a team that obviously I like what you said. They've got a lot of good players. They just don't have like those great players. It's just kind of an average team. Yeah, blue chip players. All right, coming in next at number 12.
This is the first controversial one. I struggled with this one. J.J. McCarthy, we're talking about the Vikings here at number 12 for me. J.J. McCarthy played one game last year. It was in the preseason. I happened to see that all 22 tape. He looked great, but that was in the preseason, Mike. He hasn't practiced or played since last August, early August, that is. They're going to go with him going forward. And by the way, Kevin O'Connor, their head coach, confirmed it was Aaron Rodgers who contacted them. They didn't contact Aaron Rodgers, so clearly it's It's J.J. McCarthy going forward, and they're going to go with him. But they're another team, Mike. They kind of overachieve. Their offensive lines are not very good. That's a problem. But they're unbelievably skilled at receiver and at tight end. Defensively, their talent isn't great overall, but Brian Flores is arguably the NFL's best defense coordinator. He's certainly right up there with Vic Fangio. So they'll be good. I'm going to take a leap of faith here. I'm going to believe that J.J. McCarthy, based on what I know behind the scenes, is going to be good, and I believe they'll be somehow a playoff team.
Okay, Adam Caplan's power rankings. These are his projected playoff teams. 14 teams will make the playoffs. So far, Bengals, Buccaneers, Vikings, and I think this is the first kind of – well, you said the Vikings controversial. Probably. Yep. This team will probably be there as well.
Yeah, this team has gone through a lot of personnel changes, but they're going to get Christian McCaffrey back healthy, Brock Purdy back healthy. That's those 49ers. They're a team that's somewhat in transition, but they're still very skilled on both sides of the football, getting Trent Williams back at left tackle. Look, they had a lot of guys hurt last season. Ayuk will be back from the ACL. Yeah, you got to see him run, but I'm going to be a little bit bullish on them more than other people. I believe that Kyle Shanahan's a great coach, and we'll get them on the right path. I got them at 11.
Okay, number 11 for the Niners. We'll see how they bounce back after not making the playoff this year, losing some key players as well. Coming up at number 10, we get into the top 10 now. Let's see where we go.
If we put together an all-knowing team, it would be the Packers. Why do I say that? Every year they're good. Every year they fizzle in the playoffs. Like, they have a good roster. It's hard to knock their roster, but here's the problem, Mike. They have, from 1 to 22, they have probably a top 5 roster, top 7, but guess what? Very few blue-chip players. And Jordan Love is very talented, so Jekyll and Hyde, very streaky. He's got to be more consistent. Matt LaFleur, bad playoff coach, good regular season coach. They're at number 10 for me, the Green Bay Packers.
Packers obviously got bounced by the Eagles. They played on opening night, and a lot of people thought the Packers would be a Super Bowl contender after what they did in the playoffs the year before. A little bit of a step back. Team that took a huge step forward is number 9.
Yeah, I missed on them last year, the Commandos. I didn't see this. They've been so bad for so long, but it just shows you the value of a quarterback. And it's interesting, last year, Mike, if you polled NFL people, they'd say, wow, not a very good roster. The quarterback carried them in really good coaching. Well, they addressed their offensive line with Laramie Tunsil. They needed one. They got Deebo Samuel in there, so they need another pass target. They got a good one if healthy. They need a little bit more juice at the skill positions, but they're going to be good there. Great defensive scheme. They added a bunch of help on defense. They're right there. Now, I have them at 9. If I could flip-flop it, I would probably put the Commandos at 9, and the team I'm going to talk about now, Mike, are the Texans at 8. They've got, to me, on paper, a top 3 defense. They could be elite there. They have the quarterback. They got to protect him better. The reason why I don't have the Texans higher, Mike, is what was Nick Caserio doing, their general manager? He trades Laramie Tunsil. Clearly, they didn't want him anymore, and they got a bunch of draft picks. But they have a makeshift. This is a patchwork offensive line. It doesn't work, and that's why I don't have the Texans higher than 8.
All right. Yeah, that one's interesting. The AFC ones, I think, are more difficult than – I think the NFC teams right now seem pretty locked into place. Let's go to an AFC team, and they made the playoffs last year, and you have at number 7 the Chargers.
Yeah, the Bolts. They're another team that I didn't see being a playoff team in Jim Harbaugh's first year, but give Jesse Minter credit, who was his defensive coordinator at Michigan. He brought him over there with him from Michigan. Greg Roman, and Atlantic City's own Greg Roman, who did a great job with their offense. And they overachieved. Now, they've had a nice offseason so far. They've added some critical pieces on both sides of the football. Mostly, well, it's kind of like, okay, they got backed in. They've solidified their offensive line, which they needed to do. They addressed tight end. I like Tyler Conklin a lot. They addressed a couple defensive positions. Now, they need more help on defense, especially in the secondary, but they're just really well coached. Don't underestimate them at number 7, those Chargers.
Yeah, Chargers last year kind of surprised, I think. Number 6 surprised last year, even with their quarterback situation, but we still don't know what their quarterback situation is. You don't seem to mind.
No, now, see, I was right about them. I like that over last year. I don't know where the odds makers had 7.5. I mean, I thought they'd be a 9 or 10 win team, and that's kind of where they were. But Yeah, they don't have the quarterback. Running back, they need a little help. Offensive line, they're going to be really good. Defensively, they're going to be really good. Can't put them higher than 6. Look, if you want to put the Commanders over them, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I got the Steelers at number 6.
Yeah, Steelers at number 6. I probably would push back on that if we had a full-edged debate on that one. Number 5, low. We'll go to Western New York.
Some people think I'm low on the Bills, but again, Mike, you can't win a Super Bowl without enough blue-chip players. Okay, Josh Allen's blue-chip. James Cook is a very good running back. He's an elite, but he certainly was better than most people thought. They're not good enough at receiver. They've got a bunch of number 2s and number 3s. Offensive line is slightly above average. Defensively, good scheme. They execute well. Not enough blue-chip players. They're the Bills at number 5, Mike. They're good, but they're not great.
Yeah, I'm in the boat with you there. And listen, I know I've said the same thing. I just feel like the Bills they're a good team, not a great team, and sometimes Allen elevates them to have a flashier record than really they are throughout regular seasons where they beat up on some teams. Let's go to number 4 and check out maybe the biggest adversary to the Eagles in the NFC.
Yeah, I was on them 3 years ago when no one was really talking about them. I just love Brad Holmes. Their GM has done a great job, but the one area he just can't get right, they need edge rushers. You saw what happened when Aiden Hutchinson got hurt. You got to have depth. You got to have at least 3 guys to go rush the passer. They only had one that cost them. Too many problems in their secondary at corner with injuries. They think they've addressed it with DJ Reed at corner. They're going to be good. They have to address the edge rusher issue. That they're not going to be any higher until they do that. But right now they're still really good at number 4, the Lions.
All right, the Lions at number 4, and the next 2 teams, both AFC teams here. You got 2 teams in the AFC and 1 team from the NFC. Let's round out the top 3.
All right, 3. I wish I could rank this team lower, but I can't. I could have had the Lions over the Chiefs. I have the Chiefs at number 3. You've got still problems on their offensive line. They brought in Jalen Moore to be their left tackle, who is probably better as a 6th lineman, a pretty good backup left-right tackle. But they've got it. Their offensive line's got problems. Mahomes has really been on the fading. His numbers faded the last 2 seasons. Travis Kelce probably should have retired. Mike, elite defense, no doubt. They're good, but not great. They're just, Mike, I know they're incredible in the regular season. Look, they made the Super Bowl, so they're obviously really good, but there's something missing from this football team. That's why I've got the Ravens at number 2. I get it. Lamar Jackson, one of the best regular season quarterbacks in NFL history. I don't know what the problem is in the playoffs other than the schedule gets harder, but they're really, really good, really well coached. Eagles handled them in Baltimore, no doubt. But the bottom line is I have the Ravens at number 2.
All right, and that puts Philadelphia at number 1. Adam Caplan's power rankings of the 14 teams he thinks will make the playoffs, which means, Adam, by my count here, you have Denver not making the playoffs this year, but
we're the Rams.
Or the Rams, I was going to say. But you also have the Rams out, and a lot of people think the Rams, they won the division. They gave the Eagles all they can handle. They went out and added Devontae Adams. But you think they're going to take a step back?
Well, again, this is before the draft. I want to see what they do in the draft. They draft, by the way, really well, but they're not. They're a team that if you went through their 22 projected starters, you go, wow, this is not the most talented team, but they overachieve. They got the head coach, they got the quarterback, but the Broncos, they came out of nowhere. They're going to come. I think they come down to reality this year. Really good on defense. They have a harder schedule than they did last year.
All right, what's more likely to happen then? Because Denver is that team that came out of nowhere. Washington kind of came out of nowhere last year.
Yeah.
Their schedule significantly more challenging now. Do they take the step back? It doesn't sound like you think they will.
Popular call, Mike. I know it's funny. That's been brought up to me a bunch of times on national interviews. No, because they're building around the quarterback, and I like that, where sometimes, like the Giants, they overachieved year 1. They did not address the positions they needed to address, and they didn't have the quarterback, and then they paid him. That was a problem, but let's finish this off. I've got the Eagles at number 1. There are 10 starters back on offense, and quite frankly, it's not a big deal that Becton's back. Becton was not as good as people thought he was. Good, but not great. They'll be great on offense. Defensively, they need 4 players. They need a D tackle. They need an inside backer. They need a corner and a safety. But But again, it's where they are now. So they have 7. So basically, Mike, they're good with 17, 18 players. They need 4 more starters on defense. They'll be fine. Here's the thing, Mike. They're the only NFL team that's got 6 blue chip players or more. That's unheard of, Mike. It's because Howie's dominated the draft, and also in free agency with Saquon Barkley, which you rarely get blue chip players in free agency, Mike. It's just the way it is. Usually, you get them in the draft. So the shell of the team, Mike, is still elite. That's why they're my number 1 team right now.
There you go, Adam Caplan's 14 playoff teams power rankings. If you want to hear more, check out the Inside the Birds podcast, Football at 4. And, of course, we're getting you ready for the draft. We are less than 2 weeks away. We'll have more of that as well here on the Sports Bash. All right, Adam, have a good weekend, man.
You too.